Moving on, I wanted to first of all spare a few minutes in terms of bringing everybody on the same page of what key features or foundational elements that we are going to be talking from a Web3 perspective, right? So starting with the first one, ownership. This is where we are moving from Web 1 and Web 2, which was mainly on the read side in the Web 1, and then maybe from the Web 2 side, it was read and write side. But with Web 3, what we are entering is into read, write, and own. This is where the ownership component comes in when we talked about Web 3. This is the ownership about your assets, ownership about your data, ownership about your identity. And this is where Web 3 stand out when we are talking about many things where a user needs to own any of these things, asset, data, or ID, and at the same time control their access rights. Decentralization is another key element where we are talking about no one central party controlling the network. We have seen in the past where situations like Google went down for certain few minutes and nobody was able to access the Google Suite product. At the same time, we have seen in the past that there have been outages with your banking system, with your insurance systems, and many on. But with the decentralization, unless you cut down the internet across the globe, you will not be able to bring down a decentralized systems. Moving on to the next one, immutable ledger. As the term itself says that, how can we create a tamper-proof, transparent ledger where once you have written it, nobody can go and practically edit that record. And that's where you build that trust. Smart contract is primarily a kind of an self-execution and self-enforcing environment where once the terms have been agreed between the parties and those contracts have been deployed on chain, you can practically have a terms conditions which is written on chain for the parties to follow them. And that's where, again, while working in a global and a trustless manner, you can bring that kind of an execution between the parties without having a third, without having a middleman. And that's why the systems are called as trustless and permissionless, right? So these are some of the essentials from when we are talking about Web3 fundamentals. I'm sure that many of you may have already learned about it, but just setting up the stone. And then moving on from here to some of the core capabilities of what we are meaning by AI. So starting with machine learning and predictions, this is where we are seeing the AI systems are getting better and better every other day because they are consuming a lot of information and data. And that's why they are able to recognize pattern. They are able to predict what that, content writing would look like based upon the data that they have been already trained about. And this is where the AI systems which are now interacting with us in a more natural language, and they are able to recognize the patterns. They are able to understand from the computer vision what we wanted to try and share with the AI system. I'm sure many of you may be using different forms of AI tools, whether it is ChatGPT, Claude, Grok, and many others. If you are using those systems, give me a thumbs up again. Just wanted to understand how many of you are using different forms of AI tools. Fantastic. I'm expecting more from the engineers. I'm sure that for your day-to-day practical uses as well as for your content creation, you may be certainly using this kind of tools. Moving on, how are we also leveraging AI systems when it comes to automation and decision making, right? This is where we are seeing that previously when we used to talk about the chatbots, which were only for the interaction, now we are getting into an era where we are talking about more complex activities, where we are talking about multi-agent system coming together and helping us to dissect that particular task, more complex task, into small tasks, and then they can be orchestrated with the help of multi-agent environment. And this is where, let's say, if I'm doing a particular research or if I need to book my travel tickets and wanted to, split that across multiple agent scenario, those are practically now possible. And that helps actually in terms of making faster decisions. Last but not the least is also in the data side. This is where AI can now ingest high volume of data and at the same time create more meaningful insights out of those data that can help us to move fast. So something that used to take several days can now be done with this intelligent system in fairly quick manner. Now, I think if we have understood the concept between the Web3 and AI, and I'm sure this is a short term in terms of explaining within 2 slides these 2 technologies, but with some background that you may have around this technology, I'm sure you would be able to understand where we are going. And I wanted to spare more time talking about how this convergence look like, right? So when we talk about the AI strength, we are talking about the pattern recognitions, we are talking about computer visions, we are talking about how we can bring in those automations with the help of AI agents and derive a lot of data-driven insights. And when it comes to the strength of Web3, we are talking about decentralization, trustless systems, and the ownership aspect around different elements. Combining this to power, we are actually bringing those kind of intelligent systems that can help us to, make faster decisions, bring out those decisions also into an immutable ledger that helps multi-party situation to see transparently what has been happening by reading through the ledger. And this also bring in more security, more privacy angle. When we are talking about the models, we are talking about the agents. The last row, I've purposefully left it out because this is one of my favorite of how AI systems are enhancing the product market fit, right? So whichever application you take across the business vertical, you will see that AI is going to be enhancing the product market fit. It is making the consumer interactions more and more easier. And with the help of Web3, what we are also adding is an incentivization layer and also enabling new business model. So combining this to tech again, we can achieve faster go-to-market and user onboarding. This is where, one of my personal hypothesis is that there would be a lot of acceleration that would be seen in the coming months and year, where shipping out a product would become far more easier, onboarding user would become even more simpler, and we would be able to incentivize users leveraging the Web3 technology. And that's where the convergence of AI and Web3 is going to be accelerating overall shipping of the product faster. And we would be seeing this innovation growing up so fast in the space that we have not experienced that in the past decade or so. Now, if you are convinced in terms of what potential areas AI and Web3 is going to be helping, we need to also understand, what are those solutions area that would unlock new opportunities for us. So this is not a comprehensive list. I'm sure that it can go way beyond to what we are seeing on the slide. But these are just indicative ideas that I wanted to share with you for you to also understand where we are going and heading, right? So imagine that today, if OpenAI can create those different AI models, whether your recent one, including the O3, or including the previous versions like ChatGPT 3 or ChatGPT 4 or 4.5, how can we create even those kind of AI models by working collaboratively across all those brilliant AI minds across the globe? So imagine that if all those brilliant minds across the globe, they are coming together and they wanted to create this kind of an AI model in a more decentralized way. Is that really possible? And those kind of solution can be unlocked and they can be made possible with this kind of a decentralized technology, right? So anyone, anywhere, they can come contribute and work for the real open source model, and they can get rewarded based upon the uses of model. So the companies like Sentient Foundation, they are creating this kind of decentralized open source model where multiple developers can come together, they can contribute, and they can get rewarded for the kind of contribution that they have made. Similarly, when we go to the other aspect of AI, which is mainly around the data set, right? I'm sure you would appreciate the fact that AI is as good as the quality of the data, right? How can we let the users and developers who can come and contribute their data, create their data, and then they can get rewarded or incentivized based upon the level of contribution? Again, there are projects like Wana, Scale AI, Open Leisure, all of those smart companies. What they are trying to do is they are trying to leverage the data from the users and supplying those data to the AI engineers and AI companies and rewarding the users for their contribution. So these are again, I would say the matchmaking between the Web3 technology and the AI technology, and they are going hand in hand there. From the governance perspective, which is again a key element for whichever technology that we talk about, how can we create those kind of an compliance and ethical layer, which is again more transparent for all the audit purposes? Verifiable AI is another bullet point where when we are interacting with the AI system, all the intents as well as the inferences, how can we ensure that those are really meant and they are performed the way we all anticipate for them to be done, right? So let's say if you're writing an intent, if this intent is going to ChatGPT o3 model or ChatGPT 4.5 model, you will not be able to identify that, right? And we are at the mercy of the system to to select it from a drop down, but we really don't know whether our prompt is actually hitting to the right model or not. So those kind of verifiabilities are going to be very important when we are, let's say, subscribing to a model A. Our prompt should not be referred to prompt B, which could be a cheaper model or which could be a less pricey model. And that's where, when it comes to intent, we certainly need verifiability. But at the same time, when it is coming from the inference perspective, so prompt as well as inference, we need to ensure that all those prompts and inferences are verifiable. And again, this can be done with the help of a Web3 technology. Last, the autonomous AI agent. Again, this is my personal favorite because I believe that the way we as human can own a bank account, we can own identity, right? So I can have an ICICI bank account, I can have an Aadhaar card, but imagine that tomorrow, if we are talking about AI agents, they will not have a KYC, they will not have a national ID to prove their KYC. Similarly, they will not be able to open a bank account. But with the autonomous AI agent flooding up, we certainly want those agents to be capable of making some financial transactions. And that's why they need wallet. And those wallet can be again enabled with the help of crypto rails in Web3. And at the same time, decentralized identity can give an identity to an agent. And those agent identity can help them to accrue those attestations, and they can create agent reputation over a period of time. And that's why I think this is a very interesting area where using Web3 technology, AI agents can be more autonomous, they can be authenticated, and they can build reputation over a period of time to attract premium for the kind of subscription that they wanted to offer. I've also listed down some interesting solutions where AI and Web3 can really make a difference. So without going into those details, moving on to the next area of, this all look good when we are talking about the opportunities. But I think these opportunities, they are certainly not coming without challenges. And that's why I wanted to also let you know about some of those challenges so that you can try and balance and see over a period of time how these challenges are going to be addressed. And we are seeing that there are more and more opportunities that we can leverage with this two technologies. The first one is where we are talking about privacy and AI being more data hungry. So as we were discussing earlier, for AI system to work more effectively, we need to provide them with large amount of data sets. However, with this data set, we can differentiate between the type of data, whether it is public data or private data. And some of the research paper says that by 2026, public data in the quality text form would all be exhausted by the AI models. So that raises a key concern, whether would this impact the progress of the AI, or we would find out new avenues to be consumed by the AI models so that their progress is not impacted. And hence, when we are talking about the AI, when we are talking about the data that goes into the AI system, we have to unlock new data. And this is where user private data is going to be another gold mine that would be required for the AI models to be trained further. However, there is a user privacy concern. And that's where, when the AI systems which are more data hungry, how can we ensure that user privacy is taken into consideration and that privacy of the user data should not be compromised when we are progressing faster on the AI side? Bias and accountability. I think this is an interesting one because when it comes to decentralized technology, there is no 1-800 number, right? There is no call center number where we can call and discuss about any challenge that we may see for a technology, right? And this kind of decentralized technology at times raises those concerns where if anything goes wrong as part of the audit process, or maybe we wanted to correct it in terms of any bias or any incorrect action that we may have seen with the AI models, how can we possibly reach out to those kind of people and ensure that those running the decentralized network take care of it? So the process is slightly complex compared to the ones we see with the decentralized technologies or decentralized ownerships. But then I think this is a key challenge that needs to be thought through. Scalability is another key challenge where we are talking, if you're talking in terms of writing voluminous transactions on a blockchain network, it sometimes can be pricey. Though there are solutions which are certainly addressing the scalability side of it, the transaction cost while writing on chain are getting reduced. However, this still remains one of the key challenge when we are talking about the transaction that goes on chain while interacting with the AI systems. So this becomes like a important decision principle of what goes on chain so that we can be more effective in terms of writing this onto the ledger at the same time reducing the cost for it. Last but not the least is the lack of standards. If you're talking about writing or creating this kind of solution on blockchain one and trying to see how can it work across different blockchains. There are certain solutions which are helping in terms of the blockchains to interoperate, but still those standards are not very well defined. And with the invent of different blockchains, whether it is from the EVM side to the let's say Move side to the Solana side, there are interoperability issues across those blockchains. So when we are deploying an AI system across those blockchains, we need to be seeing how can those standards be created so that interactions between the blockchains and the AI systems can be interoperable. And with that kind of a short introductions, I would like to still spare a couple of minutes and talk about how that future look like for this two convergence. And primarily this slide is intended for the technology student like yourself. I'm understanding that this is mainly the engineering students, right? So for all those engineering students, how that future look like. And my particular view is that the space is where we have a lot of flexibility at the moment in order to shape how this thing would look like. We are so early in the space that even those intelligent decentralized systems are yet to see those kind of killer applications. And we are in the early stage. We have seen only a few of them which are being out and they have been popular. But the space is so new that we need more and more innovators and builders to come out, work across these two systems, and try and see what kind of innovative use case can be created. Whether this is leveraging AI, Web3, and applying across different business vertical like retail, healthcare, e-commerce, education. There is a whole open space in terms of creating those innovative solutions. Imagine how we can create more decentralized education tutor that can be contributed by people who are working across the education sector. They can come together, they can create this kind of an decentralized education tutor that can be again a solution for right from the early stage students all towards the graduation and post-graduation level. I think there is a lot of innovative use case that can be actually explored with both this technology. And we are so early in the stage that we are going to be defining of what those killer use cases would look like. Last but not the least is again where I feel we should not be just learning about this technology, but we should also live with it. And what I mean by that is that go try out, create maybe a small smart contract, kind of a hello world example, experience what this Web3 technology has to offer, maybe interact with the existing DeFi application, purchase an NFT, go play a Web3 game, and embrace what has been created as part of a Web3 technology. And at the same time, experience some of the tools that are out in the space from an AI perspective. Try to see how you can use maybe lovable or replit kind of an no-code interface, create a simple application, and then try to build this two technology together and experience what is there to offer. So I would say that don't just focus in terms of learning the technology, but slowly build those things, experience and try out the existing application, and then create those kind of a composable components and build your own ideas, build on top of those existing solutions and experience what is out in the space. I know we have a shorter time window. I would take a pause and maybe would like to invite any questions from the team out there.
Yes, participants, if you have any questions, you can either put it in the comment or you can unmute yourself and you can ask the questions.
Sure, Kaustubh, go on.
Sir, What is the Web3 market currently lacking that can be solved by a AI B2B SaaS product?
Very interesting question. So, Kaustubh, I think their Web3 market has been out there for quite some time. However, this is a very specific question in terms of where we are seeing low traction. And I would share my personal view. I believe we have been spending a lot of time and resources in terms of building the technology, but there are not too many good consumer facing applications. Since your question is mainly on a B2B side, I would say that imagine that when we are working with several B2B companies where trust is a major issue, right? And traditionally, we have been talking about supply chain has been one of the very interesting use case, right? Where let's say somebody who is growing mangoes in one part of the India, can they be shipped in more trustless manner to another buyer in the US and things like that, right? So those are the interesting use cases. However, we haven't seen the large scale implementation of such use cases because of various reasons. On the consumer side, I particularly feel that we have not been creating too many consumer facing applications using Web3 technologies. So imagine that when we are talking about a social application, or we are talking about the delivery applications like Zomato, or maybe the applications like Uber or Ola, I think those kind of consumer facing applications are also not out there. So combine this technology from both B2B and B2C side, I think we haven't seen too many large scale implementation and success stories out there. I think this is a great opportunity, and AI can certainly make those kind of interactions even more meaningful and can help for a quicker product market fit. I hope that answers. Great.
Yes, sir.
Let me quickly read through the questions. It's a slightly bigger one. Yeah, so I think when you're talking about the standards across different Web3 solutions, it's not that it's not there. I would rather say that it has been there in certain capacity and it is growing. However, it has not reached to those kind of a smooth transitions while interacting with different chains, right? So let's say when you wanted to exchange asset between blockchain 1 and blockchain 2, there are different bridges that have been created that can help you take the assets between the chains. At the same time, it can also pass on the messages. However, the experience, what we are seeing in a Web2 environment, where I really don't care what email ID, what email client that I may be using, or what messaging that app I'm using, I think the interactions are far more smoother. But when it comes to blockchain, I think there are no very clear standards that can help in terms of making those transactions first more cheaper and more faster. There are still time lags, those transactions are still costlier, and there are innovations that are trying to see how we can make it more seamless so that blockchain technology become invisible, and for a user application they can interact with any blockchain without knowing what blockchain that they are interacting. But yeah, I think we are slightly away from them, and there are developments that are happening around it. Yeah, please go on. I think next in the queue is Srinivas.
Sir, what are some real world use cases where AI and Web3 are already being used together, and any some suggestions where we can use them?
Sure. I think there are certain early stage projects that I've been noticing. Let's say in the crypto world, if you're talking about how can we bring in crypto recommendations for the users who are new and they wanted to, let's say, trade or they wanted to buy certain assets. AI is being considered as one of the analytics tool that is working on the front end, analyzing the on-chain data and provide those recommendations for the new users to go and maybe, let's say, buy what are the top 10 coins that they should invest in, or what is that NFT that they wanted to purchase based upon the transaction volume, based upon the vibes in the community and so on. That comes as the first one in my mind in terms of a good integration from crypto and blockchain, sorry, AI and blockchain perspective. But if you cut it across different verticals, right, whether it is, let's say, creating those applications where blockchain can be your backend and AI could be your front end. Now you can apply this to any use case where you wanted to create those applications, whether it is in the finance vertical, healthcare, education, and so on. So Another use case that I can talk about could be, let's say, your healthcare system, where user data needs to remain private, but at the same time, you wanted to use AI system where those AI agents can use this private data and provide you precise recommendations and personalized recommendations. So imagine that you and me need to create a morning routine plan with the help of an AI agent. Your morning routine plan should be different than my routine plan based upon the private data that we have shared. And this kind of a private data can actually be kept on a decentralized storage so that uh, my private data is not used for the model training. And I think those kind of interesting use cases we are seeing in the early stages. Yeah, Ram.
Actually, sir, everyone in this world is now talking about AI. Like whatever you are doing, just integrate AI in your work. Like I want to know, like it's not just about Web3. If anyone is like cybersec or he's or she is a software developer, up to how much extent he or she do AI, or how can he integrate AI? Like how to means go on these two paths together.
Very interesting question, Aram. I think personally, I would tell you what I'm doing and my approach to this. I feel that we have to change our mindset and we have to start thinking AI first, right? So today, when I go and maybe create a business document for myself, what I used to do 2 years back is maybe wait for 10 minutes, design a structure in my mind, open a Google Doc, and start putting that structure and start adding more content, do more research, enhance the document, make it better. With the AI mindset, what I have been doing now is maybe, first of all, thinking straight, creating that kind of a prompt. And that prompt is something that I use as my way of structuring the thinking. And now I use that prompt to get the first draft with the help of an AI system. And then maybe if needed, I change the prompt or maybe enhance the prompt to get a second version of it. And then work on the second version. So instead of working on a raw document, I start to work on the second version. So that cut down my almost 80 to 90% of my work time. Similarly, from a student profile, I would say that when you're thinking in terms of building an application, how do you want it to build? How would you do a research? How would you analyze what exists today? What are the gaps with the existing solutions? And then maybe once you get that kind of an intelligence, that is where you should start thinking in terms of how do you develop the solution. And again, for that development, do you want it to write the code right from line number one, or do you want it to first define those prompts and create maybe a base version and then customize it to your need, right? So the the extent of AI that you should be using, I feel that it should go in terms of thinking, first of all, how AI mindset should start, right? So, taking again my example, as I was thinking, first you have to start leveraging what exists today instead of you putting in that manual effort. So, thinking in terms of AI first mindset, getting everything out, and then maybe adding your customization, your enhancement on top of it instead of doing everything from scratch. I take one more question from the text comment here from Sunny. With the hype around decentralization and blockchain innovation, why does there seems to be a scarcity of stable and entry-level Web3 jobs in today's tech market? Uh, Brilliant question again. I believe there is a scarcity of a smart talent. There is a scarcity of really qualified talent. So this is always a case, whether it is Web3, whether it is blockchain, or whether you talk about any other innovation. We have volume, but we need quality, and that is the difference between the market, and that would always continue to grow. You remember one of the slide where I was talking about the acceleration? This acceleration is moving so fast that we need to really catch it up. And many a times, the speed of innovation is faster than the speed of education, and that's where it's not only about the traditional education that might help the entry level job student to pick it up what is happening in the corporate world or in the industry, but they have to complement their skills by learning those technology, by learning what is happening in the space and be relevant, right? So that's where there is always a gap between the quality of the people, and this is not only at the entry level, this is across the levels, because the speed of learning versus the speed of innovation, there is a big parity between the two. All right, I see two more hands up. I don't know who is first. Maybe Chimalal, if you wanted to talk about it. Sorry if I pronounce it incorrectly.
Sir, what role does the edge computing play in improving the scalability of decentralized AI systems, sir? Like in today's technology market.
Sorry, say that one more time. Your question, please.
Actually, she wanted to know like what role does edge computing play in this blockchain and web
Edge
ecosystem?
computing, got it.
Yeah.
Makes sense. Makes sense. I think edge computing is going to be an important component, but over a period of time, we are going to be seeing that, instead of relying on to those remote servers, can those edge computing or edge devices makes a difference? So imagine that today, if I'm playing a game, if I am streaming it across the servers, it might have some latency issues. At the same time, if I'm storing my information only on the server, it might have a privacy issues. So edge devices, once made effective, are going to be more important. They are going to be making the latency issue go down. They are going to be safeguarding us from the data breaches and create those kind of privacy system. And at the same time, if those edge devices can also help in terms of, let's say, generating proofs for me to verify the information that my device hold, or maybe help me to interact with the other devices, I think these are going to be improving the user experience. These are going to be also making those transactions goes faster and ensure user privacy. I take one question from the chat window as well from Muthu. What more new innovations can be leveraged in healthcare, biomedical engineering, with a special emphasis on drug industry, which is $1 trillion industry? Yeah, I think particularly if we talk about the innovation with the sticking to the topic of Web3 and AI, I think healthcare comes on top of my personal list, where we might see the personalized AI healthcare agent. If you guys may remember Big Hero 6, that movie, where we are talking about how there was a personal AI agent which helps in terms of healthcare. We are going to be seeing those kind of agents. We are going to be seeing those kind of innovations where, again, within my, let's say, whatever distribution app that I use on a daily basis, can I have my own health assistant? And this health assistant can actually read through my maybe Google Drive for all my medical report. It can read through my emails to see what kind of other health assessment that may have gone through. Maybe it can also connect to my WhatsApp or other messaging app and see what I'm interacting with my friends, with my family. Are there any concerns that I'm sharing? Maybe if I'm sharing that I'm not able to sleep well since last those many days and things like that, how can all those intelligent data can be brought together, and those systems can actually help me in terms of assisting for maybe better healthcare? Similarly, when it comes to biomedical engineering, I believe the research that can go beyond what technically is possible from the human perspective, where I've been reading that AI models are now reaching to a point where they can come up with better protein formulas. They are able to analyze better DNAs. I think those kind of research, which previously were not possible, can AI system innovate and take us to a next leap of innovation so that maybe we can prevent from the pandemics like COVID-19.
Okay, sir. Thank you, sir.
I would take one more quick question from the note side by Aditya. With the hype around decentralization and blockchain innovation, oh, I think we already took this one, sorry. One more from Aditya. Why the hype around decentralization? What does seems to be, oh, I think this is a repeat one, sorry. After growing AI and Web3 with security will be the main concern, and how do we solve it? Question by Janil. Yeah, I think security is one thing that I feel is going to be a big space. Now, imagine that when we have so many people who have moved from non-smartphone era to a smartphone era, and even people who were offline to have gone online, there was a huge uptick into the number of users there. And that's where we have seen the security concerns where users are getting spam call and they are sharing the OTP to get their fund loss. They are getting those passwords hacked. They are getting, the spammy links, and they click on those links and they lost their data. And, some of the time their devices get those, I would say, Tron attacks and so on. Those are security concerns that we have seen when we have moved from offline to online. Now we are growing our age day by day digitally, and that's where there are again many users who have been always onboarded onto the digital era, and there is lack of digital literacy across the spectrum of users. So the concerns related to security are more genuine, and they are going to grow because even the hackers as well as the attackers are becoming more sophisticated, and they are going to be more sophisticated with the innovative AI tools. Now imagine that if somebody's audio is being given to an AI tool for 15 seconds, AI can actually mimic exactly the same tone and same pitch and same audio, which would be difficult for the persons on the other side to recognize whether this is an AI generated audio or this is the real human talking. This can actually lead to various reasons for fraud and breaching the security. Now these concerns are going to grow, but there are solutions also which are trying to see how we can safeguard and create those kind of security walls, whether it is eliminating those bots, whether those are making your KYC process more secured so that the video KYC or the face KYCs cannot be again fraudulently, or Gen AI don't really create those kind of mimicking face and so on. But that's a bigger concern, and I think it is further going to be growing. So but from a student perspective, I feel this is a good career track in case if you wanted to venture in, because we would see a huge uptick in terms of security issues as we go along.
I think we are running out of time here, actually. Ravikant, this is Dr. Mallikarjun. Actually, we have connected before for our startup long back in 2022 for a project called Zenith. Yeah, through a common friend called Neville Rodriguez.
Oh yeah, I remember. Yes.
Yeah. So actually, after joining here at IIIT City, like we started this event Web3SSH. Like our goal is to train as many as people in Web3 and blockchain.
Mm-hmm.
So can you say like few words about like what like Privado is doing, like what opportunities like our students might have in the technologies that you are building?
I think primarily from my side, the way we are building is the trust layer with the Privado.id. We have also launched our consumer-facing application called as Billions Network, which is the first mobile-first network for human and AI. What we are building are across different spectrum, whether it is Web2 or Web3 or AI. I would touch very briefly in terms of what we are doing. So first, in the segment of AI, we are creating a product which is called as a Know Your Agent, so that your AI agent can have an identity, and this agent can also build a reputation. So tomorrow, let's say, if you and me have to coordinate for scheduling a meeting, it might be your agent and my agent talking, but before they exchange the information, there needs to be an authentication that I'm talking to right agent on your side and your agent is talking to my agent, and they need to authenticate, right? So this is where we are creating this agent authentication and reputation layer. We are also creating an identity layer for larger financial institutions while working with the banks like HSBC, Citi, and others, and also enabling the offline verification for several government and large enterprises use cases. But I think largely what we are very excited is how can we add that kind of a compliance layer, which can bring in a lot of TradeFi capital that is sitting outside of the Web3 ecosystem. And once you add in that compliance layer, we can bring in more liquidity into the mainstream Web3 solution and bring that digital identity layer for various applications in Web2 and Web3.
Yeah, actually, those are excellent use cases, and those are like a need of the hour. Like even at IIIT City also now, many students like these are like very fresh graduates, like they are in their first year, second year. They are trying to build these zero knowledge proof applications on blockchain. They are like they wanted to like most 80% of the people at IIIT City actually work in AI and AI related domains. Now, like with your talk, I think some of them might consider to include some kind of Web3 into their projects, and they will be building some cross-domain applications very soon. Actually, I'm trying to like get you from so many years. I'm looking for the right platform. I thought this is the right platform. I wanted you to be in this event, and thank you very much for accepting our invitations and coming here. Thank you very much.
Appreciate
Yeah.
it.
Yeah.
Pleasure is mine to be here and sharing my thoughts. I know this is Sunday afternoon, and seeing those many young brains and young minds in here, it's really helpful. And thank you for inviting me. And I think in the interest of time, if we are not able to cover all the questions, my LinkedIn and Twitters are open for any questions that you may have. We can do that or async.
Yes. Thank you very much. Arham, do you have any closing remarks?
Yes, sir. Just that was an immense pleasure to have you with us and sharing your views. Thank you.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you, Ravikant. Like maybe in future we'll connect in more sessions. Yeah.
Always open for that.
Yeah.
Thank you
Thank you.
again.
Yeah.
That's it.
That's yes. Maybe like we couldn't take some of the questions. Okay. You may connect him on LinkedIn. Like he's very good. Okay. Like as I said, like back in 2022, I had a discussion with him on my startup. Okay. Somehow it couldn't materialize, but like he's very open for discussions. He will give feedback, and he's ready to give like some suggestions, right? Show you some path, right? So feel free to connect with him. Thank you. So we'll meet in the afternoon, 2 p.m. right? Thank you.
Thank you.